Hey everyone, and welcome to Vintrolicity. I am notably not Veluxe. Those of you who are all caught up on your Senchigami lore will likely recognize this voice as Jackson, the Senchigami scribe. That's really just a fancy way of saying that I'm the writer for a lot of Senchigami content. Veluxe is going to be back to hosting duties in a couple of weeks, so until then, I'll be going over the hottest news in Valorant and, well, guys, let's face it, this week I'm mostly going to be talking about tens a lot, but who's counting, really? Though, we are also going to talk about some things we didn't quite get to last week, like the proper discussion about the Duality lore cinematic that Riot dropped, and we're going to wrap up some stories that were still developing when we shot last time, like just how many dollar bills C9 Jack was picking up for tens. Quick Reykjavik recap for those in the audience that may have missed it last week. Masters was the first international event to grace the Valorant scene. Going into it, a lot of people, Senchigami included, look it up, brought up that the CSGO history would point toward North American and European dominance on the Valorant pro scene to begin with. As it turns out, we were right, and North America was the region to beat, namely Sentinels. They didn't drop a map the entire tournament, and a huge part of that dominance was pushed forward by Tens, a previously retired member on loan from C9, another North American team. So remember before, when I said we would circle back to talking about Tens and how everything was going to work after Masters Reykjavik? Well, we're at the end of the circle. So let's talk about the fat stacks that C9 is bringing home from the Tens deal. First things first, some fans online were being, let's call it hostile, towards C9 and C9 Jack for not letting Tens go over to Sentinels for free, but that's not really fair. Esports are becoming more and more like physical sports, and we're at the point where contracts can't just be handed around like that, because there's too much money on the line. You can't expect his team to just let a star go because they were playing well while on loan. That said, as it turns out, Ten's absolute domination at Masters Reykjavik didn't actually make much of a difference in the price tag of the deal, because it included terms for a buyout for Tens and had already been signed before the start of the event. The Sentinels officially adding him to the roster at this point was more accepting an optional clause as opposed to re-entering negotiations. Though it is worth noting there may have been a performance clause attached to that deal where the price went up if they did well at Masters Reykjavik. For those of you who don't know, there is a mobile version of League of Legends called Wild Rift. It's mostly the same game, but has some key changes that speed the game up and make it a little more mobile friendly overall. Mobile ports of popular games aren't uncommon, but Riot just announced back on May 20th that they were firing off the Wild Rift Origin Series, a €30,000 kickoff event for Wild Rift esports. Now, how does this relate to Valorant? If Riot Games is willing to A, make changes to the game that make it more mobile friendly, and B, are willing to throw hundreds of thousands of dollars at mobile tournament circuits, then the announcement of mobile Valorant port could be big news for the overall esports scene. That said, we have very little confirmation about anything right now for this upcoming mobile port. If you see an article online that says they know the release date for the port, they're lying. It's not going to say it in the article. Riot hasn't even announced the date yet. That said, when more information comes out about the mobile port and how it's going to affect Valorant, you know Senchigami is going to be right on top of it here on this channel. So stay tuned for Vintrolicity, slap that like button, punch the notification bell, subscribe, whatever other YouTube things are normally said. I honestly leave that part mostly to Veluxe. Want to give your money to a place that pays their employees? Check out Senchigami.com. I'm wearing one of the shirts from the Emergence line right now. And being completely honest, I bought this before I was on Sapphire. This wasn't a freebie or anything. I purchased it with my own Canadian dollars. This thing has killer quality and I legitimately just wear it a lot. All of the promo segments I write for Veluxe are way smoother than this, but I don't know, maybe you can't beat honesty. When you buy something from Senchigami, you're supporting a company that backs and funds and works with a lot of creators like myself or Veluxe. You're getting a great shirt and other great clothing items, and your money is going to good people. There, Senchigami.com. They are really worth checking out, guys. Thank you once again, Senchigami, for sponsoring and helping us run Vintrolicity. We will circle back to TENS and Reykjavik in just a little bit. There is more to talk about there, but let's take a step backward and talk about a developing story that we discussed 2 weeks ago on Vintrolicity. Remember the Spike.gg? In case Vintrolicity is the only place you get your Valorant news and you don't know much about them, they're probably the biggest, primarily Valorant esports news source. Well, they were primarily the biggest Valorant esports news. They are. It's complicated. 2 weeks ago, the Spike.gg went offline as rumors came out that Artur Minikov was a little behind on signing the checks, having a little issue at the bank. He wasn't paying his employees. So, 2 weeks ago, we reported that Minikov had come forward admitting that he owed his employees about $40,000, representing months of pay for some of them. Minikov's immediate offer was that he was going to be selling the Spike.gg and use some of those funds to pay the employees he had stiffed thus far. Overall, it was a pretty stand-up move coming from someone who was $40,000 late on paychecks. So, two important things to focus on here. The first is that the numbers listed on the original admission of guilt from Minikov, $40,000, and the amount listed on the site right now, $50,000, are pretty different. That said, the site does specify Canadian dollars, which would be about 41,000 USD. So there is a chance it's a translation issue. Unfortunately, we weren't able to confirm this here at Senchigami. The second point is that Minikov is holding out for more money. Now, before people go jumping down his throat, Minikov deleted his Twitter account, so you can't. And two, there's a chance the current offer would cover the employees' paychecks, but is an incredible lowball otherwise, and you really need to think about Minikov's investments and... Wait, no. Pay your employees for the work they do. 2 weeks ago, Minikov was gracefully admitting guilt and stepping away from the Spike.gg. Please, Minikov, keep doing that. Get out and come back once you can give people the money that you owe them. Onto the site, you'll see a nice message from the staff. It includes a couple of important things. First, the site right now isn't a fully functioning Spike.gg. Individuals, likely staff and volunteers, are keeping the site running for free right now, which is awesome of them, but clearly not a sustainable solution. Second is that Minikov kept good on his word about offering up the site to sell, but hasn't accepted an offer yet. Apparently, there is an offer to buy the site that includes paying all of the employees the 50,000 owned, but Minikov is waiting for an offer that has more money involved. For those of you who don't know, TENS was on loan from C9 because Sentinel's Sinatra was suspended from professional Valorant until just after Masters 3. TENS was supposed to be a replacement until he came back, but now, according to Sentinel's Twitter, TENS is here to stay. It's hard to see what's going to happen in a couple months when Sinatra comes back and TENS is sitting comfy on his spot, but right now there isn't really anything we can do but speculate. If I had to guess, Sinatra is going to rejoin Sentinels, and one of the other 4 unfortunate players, probably the one who performs the worst at Masters 3, is going to get replaced by him. That said, I couldn't tell you what's going to happen if the Sentinels are looking to welcome Sinatra back into a roster that won 2 Masters and events in a row. How are you going to break that up? Well, we'll get back to you on that. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. If you're hanging out online and don't know where to go, it's impossible to go wrong with the Senchigami Discord. Come hang out. It gets quiet sometimes, and I get lonely when I'm writing these scripts. Plus, if you have Discord Nitro, our custom emojis are absolutely top tier. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back with more Valorant news next week. Have a great week, and remember, check your corners.